That's when a government commission mandated that we lower fat consumption to try and reduce heart disease.
Major coronary risk factors.
So with the best of intentions, they say, time to reduce fat in the American diet.
Exactly. And we did. And guess what? Heart disease, metabolic syndrome, diabetes, and death are skyrocketing.
Dr. Lustig believes that's primarily because we replaced a lot of that fat with added sugars.
When you take the fat out of the food, it tastes like cardboard. And the food industry knew that. So they replaced it with sugar.
This idea that sugar increases this particularly bad LDL, the small, dense particles that are associated with heart disease. Do most doctors, do they know this?
No, they do not know this. So this is new.
And it turns out sugar has become a major focus in cancer research, too. Louis Cantley is looking at the connection.
If you limit your sugar, you decrease your chances of developing cancer.
Absolutely.
Cantley, a Harvard professor and the head of the Beth Israel Deaconess Cancer Center, says when we eat or drink sugar, it causes a sudden spike in the hormone insulin, which can serve as a catalyst to fuel certain types of cancers.
What we're beginning to learn is that insulin can cause adverse effects in various tissues. And of particular concern is cancer.
Why? Nearly a third of some common cancers, including breast and colon cancers, have something called insulin receptors on their surface. Insulin binds to these receptors and signals the tumor to start consuming glucose.
So this is your body eating...
Every cell in our body needs glucose to survive. But the trouble is, these cancer cells also use it to grow.
So if you happen to have a tumor that has insulin receptors on it, then it will get stimulated to take up the glucose that's in the bloodstream. So rather than going into the fat or the muscle, the glucose now goes into the tumor, and the tumor uses it to grow.
So you've just seen that tumor turn blue, which is essentially reflective of the glucose going into it.
That's right.
So these cancers, much in the same way that muscle will say, hey, I'd like some of that glucose. The fat says, I would like some of that glucose. The cancers have learned how to do this themselves as well?
Yes, so they have evolved the ability to hijack that flow of glucose that's going by in the bloodstream into the tumor itself.
Louis Cantley's research team is working on developing drugs that will cut off the glucose supply to cancer cells and keep them from growing. But until there's a breakthrough, Cantley's advice, don't eat sugar. And if you must, keep it to a minimum.
In fact, I live my life that way. I rarely eat sugar.
When you see a sugary drink, or if I were to offer you one, with all that you know, what's going through your mind?
I probably would turn it down and get a glass of water.
But for most of us, that's easier said than done.
Turns out sugar is much more addictive than I think we had sort of realized early on.
Eric Stice, a neuroscientist at the Oregon Research Institute, is using functional MRI scanners to learn how our brains respond to sweetness.
Sugar activates the brain in a special way that's very reminiscent of drugs like cocaine.
That's right, cocaine.
All right, let's give it a shot.
I climbed into the MRI scanner to see how my brain would respond. That's a straw that's been rigged to deliver a tiny sip of soda into my mouth.
Stay as still as you can, okay?
Okay, fine.
Just as it hit my tongue, the scanner detected increased blood rushing to certain regions of my brain. In these images, the yellow areas show that my reward region is responding to the sweet taste. Dopamine, a chemical that controls the brain's pleasure center, is being released, just as it would in response to drugs or alcohol.
So dopamine's released. That sort of makes me feel good. I'm experiencing some pleasure from having this kick.
Right, that euphoric effect.
So far be it for people to realize this, because sugar is everywhere. But you're saying this is one of the most addictive substances possibly that we have.
It certainly is very good at firing the reward regions in our brain.
Eric Stice says by scanning hundreds of volunteers, he's learned that people who frequently drink sodas or eat ice cream or other sweet foods may be building up a tolerance, much like drug users do. As strange as it sounds, that means the more you eat, the less you feel the reward. The result? You eat more than ever.
If you overeat these on a regular basis, it causes changes in the brain that basically it blunts your reward region response to the food, so then you eat more and more to achieve the same satisfaction you felt originally.
Dr. Robert Lustig agrees. We need a balanced diet. But his idea of balance is a drastic reduction in sugar consumption. To that end, he co-authored an American Heart Association report recommending men should consume no more than 150 calories of added sugars a day, and women just 100 calories. That's less than the amount in just one can of soda.
Ultimately, this is a public health crisis. And when it's a public health crisis, you have to do big things and you have to do them across the board. Tobacco and alcohol are perfect examples. We have made a conscious choice that we're not going to get rid of them, but we are going to limit their consumption. I think sugar belongs in this exact same wastebasket.